When people first turn 17 or 18, one of the first things they want to do is to learn to drive and buy a car. People like the sense of freedom, and I get it.
It's the possibility of driving our own destiny.
But is it the best financial decision you can make? We're going to do the maths behind it today, go into how much it actually costs to buy your first car and all the other expenses that go alongside it, and then we're going to compare that to just getting an Uber or a taxi everywhere and see what the results are. So stick around to the end of the video and find out whether buying a new car or taking Ubers everywhere is cheaper for an entire year. So let's get straight into the video. Like video, please. Firstly, I'm not going to include the expenses of learning to drive, and it is very expensive, but it is a one-off cost that a lot of people might have done already, or is just kind of separate from the actual expenses of owning and maintaining a car. If you haven't yet passed your driving test, then consider adding on another maybe £600+ onto the total we get at the end to get a rough estimate of how much it's going to cost you to learn to drive and then to buy a car. Now, I'm going to be doing these calculations based off averages and some random numbers, so it's not going to be super accurate, it's just meant to be an example. So your situation will vary, as will everyone else's. It's just meant to give you a rough idea and give you a ballpark figure that it might cost to buy and maintain your car for a year. So to make it a somewhat fair comparison, we'll come up with our hypothetical situation. So in this situation, you're working a 9-to-5 job which you have to commute to every day. So that's 2 journeys per day. We're going to say that it's approximately 10 miles away. Again, just making these numbers up, but just so it's fair throughout. On top of that, we're also going to include 1 shopping trip per week. So off to get your groceries for the week. And then 3 other random trips. So that might be to go see a friend, to go to a sports club, anything you like. So 3 extra journeys. So in total, this will mean we have 18 journeys per week. We're going to pretend that each journey is exactly 10 miles. Again, this wouldn't happen, but just to make the numbers easier. So that means per week you'll be driving around 180 miles. So this is the framework or pretend situation that we will use to compare having a car and taking Ubers everywhere. So let's get started. We're going to pretend that you have passed your test within the last 5 years. So this is probably geared towards younger drivers. So let's say you're between 18 and 23, or around that age. And in this situation, you're looking to buy your first car, and a lot of people in that age range probably are. So let's have a look at what the average price of a first car is. This article from Go Compare says that the average price of a first car is now £4,276. I don't know about you, but that's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I would have thought everyone was just buying old bangers.
Well, I don't think it's too bad. It's not great though, is it? No.
Now this article does break down the average price per area, and you'll notice that there is quite a large range between the cheapest and the most expensive. Now I'd like to think that everyone watching this video has a head on their shoulders. I wouldn't just drop their 5k life savings into buying a new car that will instantly depreciate the moment you drive it away. So because I know you're smart, and because I think that 4,200 is a bit expensive, we're going to reduce our budget slightly, not too much, and say let's try and find a car between £3,000 and £4,000. All I'm going to be looking for this car is to have a small engine size, so the insurance is cheaper, and also to be quite fuel efficient, so we don't waste money on petrol. So let's have a look. As you can probably tell, I'm not really a car person, so if you want to look totally cool in your new whip, then this video isn't for you. But if you're trying to save money and look at how much your car costs, then it is. So I did a quick Google for the best first cars to buy, and this article came up. Number 1 on their list is the Skoda Citigo / Seat Me / Volkswagen Up. They're pretty much all the same thing. So let's go for one of these then. The article says they're fuel efficient and cheap to run, so that ticks 2 boxes we were after. It also happens to say that they're very safe, and that's a bonus. It means you won't die when you're flooring it doing the top speed of 30 miles an hour.
It's a nosedive, mighty magnificent men!
So I looked for about 5 minutes and found a 2014 3-door Skoda Citigo. It cost just under 4k, so just within our budget, however a little bit on the expensive side if you ask me. Now this is by all means not the best deal. It literally took me well under 5 minutes to find this. I haven't really looked at the miles it's done, any previous issues it's had, any issues with the actual model of the car. This was very quick. So if you actually are interested in buying a car, then I suggest you take longer than 5 minutes to research it. Pro tips with Lucas. Now we have selected our wagon, which has just set us back around £4,000, which is still under the average price of the first car. Great stuff. Now let's deal with insurance. So I'm going to go and enter all my details into an insurance comparison website type thing and see what it spits out, see how much we'd be paying. So the main things that I've put in this comparison website, just so you know what type of information I've put down. I've said that I'm 20 years old, been driving for around 2 to 3 years. I've also said that you're insured to drive on someone else's vehicle. So this might mean you're insured to drive on one of your siblings' cars or your parents' car or something like that. This just slightly reduces the insurance price you pay. I said they were single, didn't own a house, and they worked in the education sector. Obviously, the industry you work in will also slightly change the insurance price you pay. Not just that, but just your personal circumstances will also change the price of the insurance, so everyone's is going to be different. At this stage, you can also add more drivers to your insurance, which can decrease the price. So if you have parents that might use it, or siblings again, then you could add that, if they're more experienced drivers, then that could drive down the price. The cheapest quote I got was £430. Again, I did not dive deep into the insurance policy, didn't look if it was the best one, but that's just the cheapest one that there was. Remember, if you're younger than 20 or have been driving for less time than 2 or 3 years, then the insurance price could be a lot higher. Similarly, if you're older and been driving for a bit longer, that price might be lower. So including the insurance now, we are just under £4,500. Now let's go and figure out the petrol costs. So the Skoda Citigo, or Skoda, says that it gets 55.4 miles per gallon. Obviously this will vary depending on how you drive the car. If you drive it like a maniac, then it probably won't get that much. However, I'm going to reduce it to 50 miles per gallon because I feel like what the producer says is never really what you actually get. It's the same with like phones, you get 12 hours battery life, but here we are a year later having to charge it every 2 minutes. So our total miles for the whole year will be 180 miles per week times 52. That equals 9,360 miles. I checked the fuel prices for today, or the average fuel price for today, and it was 127.6 pence per litre. Now, if we divide these miles by 50 to get how many gallons we will use per year, this gets us 187.2 gallons per year. Now, there are 4.55 litres in a gallon if we're rounding. So in order to work out how many litres we need for the whole year, we just do 4.55 times 187.2. That gets us to £851.76 per litres per year. Now to work out the cost, we just multiply that 851 litres by the price, which is 127.6p. Then we divide our answer by 100 to get our answer in pounds. So in total that will equal £1,086.85 for the entire year and just under 10,000 miles. So this brings our running total to around about £5,500. I'll put the exact numbers on the screen. Now let's look at other expenses. Road tax and MOT. Road tax for this car is extremely cheap at just £20 per year. Now if we have a look at MOTs, we have to get one every year. So we'll go to Halfords for ours, just because that was the first website that came up. Now, you're supposedly meant to get a full service every 12,000 miles roughly. So depending on how many miles your car had when you bought it, it could be coming up. And given that we're doing almost 10,000 miles in a year, we may as well just get one anyway. So Halfords offer a deal where you get the MOT and the full service for £200. So we'll just go ahead and do that and add that onto the total. So our total costs are around 5.7k currently. Now we need to add on some breakdown insurance as well as some costs to cover maintenance. The maintenance costs of a car really is just luck of the draw. Something might go, something might not. You've got cars that last like 20 years and some that barely last 5. So it is just going to be a bit of luck there. However, for this, we're just going to put away 50 quid each month just in case something goes wrong. So you could argue that it needs to be a little bit more, but that's what we're going to go for this video. So that's going to equal £600 in total for the year. For breakdown cover, to go for a reputable company like your AA or something like that, it's going to cost around £100. We'll put another 100 on. So in total, we've got £700 to add onto our total. Now, something no one wants to think about, but you have to consider, is what happens if you get into a car crash. Apparently, 43% of first-year car drivers get into a car accident and 37% of second year, which is why your insurance is so high, and it's also something you have to consider with your costs. Although your insurance should pay it if it's a lot, you may have to pay an excess fee, and then you will have to pay larger insurance in the future. So I'm going to put another £500 to the side just to cover any kind of minor damage from an accident that might happen. That may mean you can avoid going through insurance, so avoid increasing your rates. If I have missed any expenses or I've done anything incorrectly, then please do let me know. It is very possible I've made mistakes. So we're up at almost £7,000 now, which is quite a bit more than we initially paid for our car. Now obviously the years following this would be a lot cheaper, since we don't have to buy the car again. But even then, that's still around £3,000 per year in maintenance, and that's providing nothing really badly goes wrong, which is probably likely to happen the longer you have the car. Now let's move on to Uber and how much it will cost to get around with Uber. Something very important to note here is that this changes massively depending on where you live. So I did a quick kind of test, and if you were to get a 10-mile Uber around the Brighton area, then that'll cost you around £35. However, if you do it around Edinburgh, just on the outskirts, that's only going to cost you about £17. However, I feel like £16–17 is a little bit cheap, so we'll bump it up to £18 just to cater for some slightly more expensive areas. So that equals £36 per round trip. Over the course of a year, that would equal £14,976. A lot. Definitely more expensive than a car. However, a lot of us aren't going to be getting taxis or Ubers everywhere. So what if we factor in, let's say, you getting a train to work or a bus to work every day? So let's say that your bus/train costs £15 a day. Now I am well aware that you could probably get a lot cheaper than this, but I just thought I'd go on the expensive end. In this example, we'll still use our Uber for other journeys to the shops and to other things. Using our train example, this would get us to £8,996, which is still more expensive than our car. However, it's important to remember that we did go for a car that was cheaper than the average price of your first car. So if you're thinking of going for a more expensive car, then this may actually be more expensive than just taking Ubers and trains. However, the obvious perks of just going by Uber is that you don't have to worry about the maintenance, you get no stress having to remember to fill up petrol, pay insurance, pay your breakdown fees, anything else. You just hop in the Uber and you're good to go. So at this point you're probably like, why have you even made this video? Uber's more expensive, I'm just going to get a car. And if you're driving as much as the example I used, then yeah, car probably is better. But it's important to remember that if you don't plan on staying in an area for a long time, and you may have to sell your car after a year, then perhaps consider doing Uber or getting the train or using a combination of public transport and Uber, especially if you're going less miles. So if we use, well, the example we had before was 180 miles a week. So let's say we divided that by 2. For the car example, the insurance might decrease slightly because we're driving less miles per year, but it's probably not going to be a huge amount. Whereas if we look at the fuel costs of the car, that will decrease by about half, let's say. So we did have just over £1,000, I think. So let's say that's 500. So our total was around 6,900, so that brings it down to 6,400 if we drove half the miles. Whereas if we were using Uber, then because we're just taking half the journeys, then our price is going to be divided by 2 completely. So that will equal £4,500 because we were just under 9,000 for the full 180 miles a week. So that means in this case that our Uber would be cheaper if we were driving 90 miles or less per week. So you really have to consider your own situation, how many miles you're driving per week, what you're actually needing the car for. Do you need it for work? Are you just needing one because you want one? And then try and make a decision based on doing the maths like I just did and working out if that's best for you at this current moment in time. So the point of this video wasn't to tell you not to go out and buy a car. It was just to try and urge you to really think about it and do the maths and work out what's best for you. Because it might be a great decision for you to get your freedom, be able to go places, but it may not be the best financial decision you could make right now. So do your own research, do the maths, figure it out, and see if it's right for you. If you did like this video, then please let me know by leaving a like and commenting down below. Also let me know what type of videos you would like to see in the future. I know this is a little bit different from my last few videos, but I hope some people still enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.